this morning, and we had a lovely reception last night for those of you that were with us on what's now in our new office space, just a block and a half away, with great views of the Capitol, the Washington Monument, and the like, on the rooftop of our office and the like. But so now is the official kickoff for SustyBiz 2017, and really glad that you could join us here. Obviously, as always, a very packed program, a full program, and really appreciative of both the individual and collective wisdom in action here. So, now that we moved into our 8th year at ASBC, it's obviously a new moment in Washington. And there's a lot of deep thinking and hard work that our staff and our members have been doing about how best to address the current reality and the like. And so what we're going to try to do over the course of the next several days is, and particularly today, is to go deep in those conversations and really work together to develop the strategies, which is why we began this morning with the working groups and the like. So really key that we get your best thinking as we chart our process for moving forward. So just for those that don't know, I'm David Levine, the CEO and a co-founder of the American Sustainable Business Council. And it has been quite a journey, and we're so glad that you are a part of the lifting up of a voice and the coming together as sort of a network, an alliance, a collaboration, so that we could collectively have that greater power. So welcome. So with that, it's a real pleasure, to bring up to the podium, to the stage without a podium, Bob Bland. And Bob I met in New York City. And, if there was one issue that is hard to tackle, is think about the loss of manufacturing in this country, but think about the loss, in fashion, in textile, right? In that development, with, the trade deals that happen, under the North American Free Trade Agreement, right? And the push out of shipping overseas, all of those jobs, all those businesses. We have businesses, like TS Designs in Carolina, right? That had hundreds and hundreds of employees, went down to 17 employees, after those deals got made. The number of vacant buildings in New York City that were there. And Bob had a vision, for reviving manufacturing, from the ground up, doing it across the supply chain, right, from design on out, really tapping the new entrepreneurial spirit, bringing that together, into a vision that, included the new sorts of folks that could help to bring back a new way of doing business, in the fashion industry and the like, and to do it thinking about the full supply chain, thinking about sustainability, thinking about all the different issues so if we're going to bring it back, don't bring back the old form, but bring back a new form. So a real vision, but a real determination so that there's actual brick and mortar and folks in the fashion industry back in Brooklyn, back in New York City that are making this happen and the like under Bob's leadership. But of course that wasn't enough for Bob, right? So Bob, joined with is a part of the leadership that brought us the Women's March. Yes, right? At a moment in time where, and again, there was sort of different sort of exodus from this country, perhaps of values, of common sense, of ethics, of the right way to be talking about each other in this country, to stand up and to bring together across all diversities, right, and geographies and the like, for us to be able to come together and to be able to name that moment differently and to reclaim what should be the culture. So with that, I bring up Bob Bland.
Hi, thanks so much for having me here this morning. And thank you so much, David and Richard, for inviting me back now as a speaker. I've attended many of these conferences, and it is always illuminating. It was really one of the first times that I got to be engaged in national reach out to senators and Congress people around sustainability, and also even a couple years back, the opportunity to start drafting and writing suggested legislation and policies for various different offices. I don't think that I would have done the work with the Small Business Administration and the Department of Commerce that I ultimately ended up doing without the American Sustainable Business Council. So thank you so much, David. And I hope all of you take good advantage of tomorrow, especially because there's so much that can be accomplished, not just for your individual businesses and not just for your individual industries, but also for a sustainable platform in general. And there's still enough, even though this is the Trump administration and we've got like a wrestler federation president as like an executive, secretary. It is a bizarre time to be in sustainability, but I think that it also allows us to invest in our local representatives and invest in our local communities in a way that previously maybe we weren't paying attention to as much. So I'm here to talk about lessons from the Women's March. And it's actually amazing to watch my Facebook newsfeed right now because I'm starting to see the little like, oh, hey, if 25 people buy this Nasty Woman t-shirt, I can print them. And like all the little steps along the way that got me to Women's March. And my daughter Chloe just turned 11 months. So she was born 9 days into the March planning, and yeah, oh yeah, that was something. She was 3 weeks early. I was like, stay in, but that's a whole nother story. But truly humble beginnings for the Women's March. I would have marched with 40 people. I would have marched with 1,000 people, and I think that that's something where we, I see a lot of people in business try to manufacture a viral campaign, to actually be like, I'm gonna make a campaign that's gonna go viral. And I would say, first of all, stop that right away. Like, you can't make something go viral. Like, it goes viral or it doesn't. And if you force it, it doesn't matter how much money you throw at it. It's not gonna go viral if it's not hitting a moment. So the most important thing for you to be doing as a business owner is paying attention to timing, not making excuses for yourself or for your business, not allowing hierarchy or internal politics or anything like that to get in the way of you meeting the moment unapologetically as a champion of sustainable business. And that's something that you can do every day. So I would just say, when something feels right, it is, and do not hesitate, because there's at least like 50 people having that same idea at that same moment. And we certainly saw that with the Women's March, where while I was getting up and saying, well, I can't do nothing, I feel like just staying in bed and putting the covers over my head and just crying all day, but I can't do nothing. So I have to do something. At that same time, Teresa Shook, who's a lawyer, a grandmother in Hawaii, someone I had never met, was thinking, hey, I should have a Women's March in Washington on Inauguration Weekend. And that was exactly what I was posting too. So another lesson from this is, don't be afraid to work with strangers. Don't work with people that just only people you know or people you've been introed with. Use the power of social media for what it is, and take that opportunity to answer someone who sends you a random LinkedIn message. Answer somebody who is just messaging you on Facebook. Don't count people out. I think that that's one thing that's helped me in business since the beginning is we all love, I'm sure you've all read the classic E.F. Schumacher, Small is Beautiful, economics as if people mattered. And the most important part of that is people matter. People matter. Everyone has something to contribute. Don't count people out. And with Women's March, we started with a vision. It was a big vision. And it was a big tent that everyone could find their own meaning in. That's why we used the hashtag #WhyIMarch, because everyone was marching for a different reason. And I guarantee you that if we had tried to get women to come out on January 21st who all agreed on exactly the same things, we would have gotten like 5 people. So instead of that, we said, you know what, it's okay to disagree. It's okay to disagree as long as your beliefs do not question the humanity of your fellow human beings. Anything else, we can have a tough conversation about, what we call daring discussions. And but do not question the humanity, and particularly it's time to trust women. And it's time to trust communities of color. One thing we say in Women's March is that the people closest to the problem are the closest to the solution. And I would like to think in sustainable business that all of us are solutionists. We may be working in business, we may have a mission that has some sort of profit, hopefully involved in it, but that's not really why we're doing it, right? We're doing it because we want to make a social impact. And so I would say to you that one thing that I learned from Women's March early on is that I had been complicit in a system that I like to call white supremacy. That's a big part of the inception of this country. It includes colonialism. It includes the genocide of indigenous people, the slavery of Africans. All of that is a system that we really haven't talked about in this country enough. And I'm not just talking about after Charlottesville. I think that we need to address the root cause of injustice in our nation in order for our businesses to thrive, in order for us to truly have a sustainable system. And it can be scary, but I guarantee the risks of having to talk about a system that we have every white person in this room has benefited from at the expense of other people for their entire lives. Talking about that and the risks involved with that, particularly the risks to our businesses, is nothing compared to the risk that communities of color face on a daily basis to their lives, to their families, to their communities. So that was a huge thing. Okay. And it's important, especially if you're in a room filled with white folks, like you're bored probably, it's for you to start talking about the intentional divestment, not just, we talk about divestment in the energy sector, we talk about divesting from carbon and fossil fuels, we talk about intentional divestment like ultra billionaires and stuff like that saying, okay, I'm gonna divest 80% of my money before the end of my life to philanthropic ventures. But then there's also intentional divestment of power. And I think that that's something that we, particularly those of you who are the heads of something or executives or you're on XYZ board, to start thinking about intentionally divesting your power to particularly women of color. And think about the ways that because they and their communities are closest to the problems, they will also be closest to the solution. By trusting them, you will be giving over leadership to people who will really make a difference and have been making a difference their entire lives, but often with way less resources. So they're also going to be the most scrappy people. So that, they're going to get stuff done And so I think that that's something that's very important whenever we talk about sustainable business. We also have to talk about creating new systems and looking systemically at everything we do and saying, how can we also make our culture sustainable moving forward? So those are the main points. I would just say the other thing is that sometimes, as you can tell, the best leadership, and what I learned from Women's March, the best leadership is sometimes setting a vision and then stepping back, and giving room for there to be a room full of leaders. If the national team of Women's March wasn't 70 women from across all different backgrounds, I don't think we'd be as successful as we are. This also extends to taking your businesses and taking a page from politics, taking a page from movement building, and building coalitions with each other around campaigns. American Sustainable Business Council is a great example of this, but it can be done even broader and across a variety of different sectors, where we need to be doing more campaigns where it's not just about our business, it's about an entire coalition of businesses coming together. Because I guarantee you're not going to be getting the platforms you need from the government or from other bigger systems as much as you're going to be getting it from loving and supporting and appreciating each other's work and uplifting each other's work. When we rise, we need to rise together. So the last thing I would say is that we need to be honest about the competition. It's not enough for us to resist. One thing we've seen over the last year is we're really good at resistance. We're good at digging in our heels and saying, no, we're not going to have that. You know, we got 5 million women out on January 21st to say, not today, Satan. You know, we're not going to do this, and to set a vision for the future. But we need to do more than just resist. We need to set a coherent vision for the future that is sustainable, that you can have a 15 to 20 second elevator talk about, you know, and that's clear, and that every single person in this room is a microphone for. So I would just call on the American Sustainable Business Council to continue creating policy platforms, but then also to not just extend those to current elected representatives. Make sure that your local candidates, from the school board to the city council to the governorship, we've got 36 governorships up next year, 100 seats up on November 7th in Virginia alone. You know, states are being completely remade right now. We lost a lot of ground over the 8 years of the Obama administration because we were all sleeping. And the truth was we were losing the ground from underneath our feet. So we need to get back to that. We need to knock every door, not just for politics, but also for sustainability and for education. And this can be something that I think we all agree that we want to live on Earth, and our kids to live on Earth, and, you know, sustainability, disaster management, energy, green energy, you know, local sustainable manufacturing. All of these things are tied together, and we need to create a platform that we can all communicate to people, whether they're a part of our sectors or not, that's clear, coherent, and visionary. Thanks so much.